mine. Just like a tree that's planted by the waters, I shall not be moved. Though the tempest rages, I shall not be moved. Oh, on the rock of ages, are you trapped now? Here, go up this way. She was laying right there one night, and it was like an earthquake. She moved my camera. But she's going to do it again, I guess. All right. Welcome to the Waycast. I'm Tony, and this is Rob Thorburn.
Hello.
And I thought that I would have him on today and do something a little different. I know that you're used to me going through Revelations. You're excited for chapter 13 or 14. I don't know where I'm at. But I thought that we would have a discussion with Rob. He's a mentor of mine, and about Jesus, not about religion. I made that mistake whenever I was talking to him earlier, but we don't want to talk about religion. We want to talk about Jesus. That's what we're all about. And so we are live on Facebook, on Twitch, on Rumble, and YouTube. And so if you're joining us on one of those platforms, welcome, and from all around the world. We have people in Bangladesh that comment.
Awesome.
It's amazing to me that YouTube, I can click on, they wrote it in Bangladeshian, and I can't read it. It looks like hieroglyphs, or maybe a cityscape, and you can click on it, and it tells you what they said, and then they can. I don't know if you've noticed. We have if you've watched some of these live, but on Facebook, it's not the right one on Facebook. It often will have a subscript, closed caption, and so the closed caption in YouTube, they can get the closed caption in their language, and so it's amazing. It's not like the radio or TV, or that they're watching it or listening into it in a different language, and then all they're getting is unfortunately the Uncle Cecil's music. It's something different. For some reason, it's not going to show me the podcast. for today on here. Anyway, let me get you started, Rob. Tell us about yourself.
Like from the beginning, like
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was raised in Michigan, a little town south of Lansing, Michigan, and my dad bought property up in Canada back when Americans could buy property up there, and he bought an island up in east of Sault Ste. Marie, about 30 miles, and so I spent every summer up in Canada, and I spent 2 years of school up in Canada where we stayed up there year round, and it was a really good experience. I really enjoyed it. And up in Canada, and I spent. And then I went in the military when I turned 18. I graduated high school, went in the military, Air Force, studied electronics, and I worked on I guess it would be telecommunications before anybody knew what telecommunications was, you know.
Right.
And so I did a hitch in the service, got out in '77, and went with another company called Astronautics that we did more of the same. It was telecommunications equipment and peripherals, and oh goodness, sorry. Wouldn't you know?
Our landlines. Our landlines.
Yeah. So that was kind of my career, was in electronics, and then eventually I became a Christian, and then later on house churched for 7-8 years, and just a firm believer in Jesus Christ.
Right. Now, before that you became a Christian, you were part of another organization. Can I call it a cult?
Sure. Yeah. When I was in the military, a fellow said he was LDS, and LDS says, "Hey, we have a new, better gospel than Christianity." They tend to say that they're Christians at times, but they're better than Christians. You know, and so not being rooted in the Word, I was susceptible to that kind of teaching, and I did not do all that well because you're working your way to heaven.
Oh, okay, right.
And you're working on works, and in the LDS religion, Jesus is just kind of the spiritual booster rocket that gets you over the top.
Right.
But a lot of your works are really what's going to determine heaven and which heaven you're going to go through. They believe in 3 heavens and so on.
Okay.
The problem being really that their God is not the God of the Bible. Their Jesus is not the Jesus of the Bible.
But they sort of have a belief like the Nicolaitans, and you may not know what that is, but they have a little secret that nobody else knows. It's what the Nicolaitans believe, and they believe that Jesus was begotten by God, and God was begotten by somebody else, and he was begotten, and he's a long chain of, and he's just the latest on the scene.
Kind of a Johnny Appleseed of gods or something.
Right.
Yes.
And so that's what I kind of realized. These cults, they're not really new. I mean, a lot of people, people think it started with Smith, but in I guess that would be the 1800s. But a lot of these trace their roots back to, it seems to me, in comparing them to things that's been around all along.
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Now, did this relate to? I know because your wife was Mormon as well. Did you meet your wife that way?
Yes.
Okay, I was
Actually, so okay, so I was working installing computers, but they were huge. The one computer took up a whole room.
Oh wow! They had to back then.
They had to back then. This is a while back.
For those of you who don't know, I think I have some little bit of insight. It had to be big enough. You fed it these cards that almost like what you would check in for time cards, and you would send it in cards and feed it cards, and then it would shoot you out a card.
Yes. There was. So there was the computer. It really wasn't a computer by today's standards. It was really a microprocessor.
Well, each card was like an O or a 1.
Yeah. You had a huge panel of switches, and you could select and deselect things.
Okay, yeah.
And that was really the extent of it, really.
Okay.
And it was really hardwired. It wasn't programmed per se. It was really a hardwired.
You programmed it with cards, and it spit out a card from what I understood. I didn't actually receive one.
The first one I worked on was just hardwired, and it only had one function. But the peripherals would be paper tape or cards. Like you were talking about the IBM cards.
Was it the big reels that you saw?
Later we had the magnetic tape.
Okay.
That got kind of added on later, and a modem, say just a modem, would take up a whole computer rack. It was feet deep and feet wide.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so
this was before dial-up.
Yeah, this is way before dial-up. Yeah,
because I think the internet came around like in the early '90s, and then before that we had modem. I remember doing modem. And I had a friend. I was able to talk to him via modem. You could type to each other and that sort of thing. I remember doing that back in the '80s, but didn't do too much of that. But
right, this was for the military, and
so you were dealing with high tech stuff.
At the time, we thought we were.
Or is it like I've heard people who work for the government? Is what they're dealing with that they're still using that technology.
I hope not.
Well, you remember they came across where that they and everybody's records are kept in this mine shaft, and they have to in order to retire somebody, I guess they have to go down 40 levels. And
yes. Yeah, they did not upgrade when along with the rest of the world. But so yeah, I did that for a long time, and then I actually got after the military. I got sent out to Maryland. I met my wife. I've been working a lot. I said I gotta meet some girls. I said I know where the girls are. Church. So I went out to the Mormon church, and
so there's more girls at the Mormon church than the Baptist church. I don't know if you've been to any Baptist churches, but there seems to be a lack there.
Oh. No, the Mormons were wonderful. They put all the single young adults, they put all together.
Okay.
So there was no guesswork.
Okay.
You didn't have to try to figure out who was available.
Right.
And so that was wonderful. And I actually saw Lori the first time I went to church, and thought that she was the one.
Right.
And so it was kind of love at first sight.
Obviously, she was. You've been married. I don't know how many years.
46 years, I think.
46 years.
Yeah.
Sorry, don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's okay.
But after that amount of time, I'd lose track too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and it's been a good run, and.
So let's talk about Jesus for a minute. One of the things that I wanted to ask you is because to me there are people tend to add all this criteria to being a Christian, like you're saying. Jesus was a good start, but then he's the booster rocket that got you out of the atmosphere.
Over the top.
and so they want to add all these things into it. And Paul ran into that. You remember, everywhere he went, he had these Jews that would follow him around, say, well, there's a little bit more you need to know. You need to keep the law, and you need to
be circumcised.
You need to get circumcised.
Yeah.
You need to do these things. And so, to you, what for somebody, what really constitutes what somebody needs to do to be saved?
Well, it says, without faith it is impossible to please God. So you have to believe that Christ is who he claimed to be,
right,
and that he washes us free of sin by the sacrifice of him on the cross.
right,
and that's it. And anything you add to that, it's kind of like a mathematical thing. If you say this is important too, then you have what Christ did.
Right. Well, but then I do want to add to that is what happened after the cross. He arose, right?
Oh yes, he arose.
He arose, and then we're going to raise in like manner.
Yes.
Part of that belief is what to me that's the gospel. Is he came, died, he rose again, and I'm going to raise in like manner.
Yes.
And I just have to believe that.
Yes.
And confess that.
Yes.
And confess him as Lord and Savior, and that is it. And it's as easy as ABC.
It is.
Admit, believe, and confess.
Yes.
And it's what I show people. And we get up, and so I kind of fallen out with some of my friends. They get all upset with all these other people who are teaching something slightly different than they believe. They get all twisted out of shape. Like we're talking about. We have, we were talking about raptures. There's pre, post, all. Then there's the millennialist who believe we're already in the millennial. Then I had a pastor taught me the progressive rapture. I don't know if you've ever heard that one.
No, that's a new one.
Well, you've got Enoch, and then Elijah, the saints out of Sheol, and then you've got, a pre, a mid, and a post. Maybe I don't know, but the better you are, the earlier you get raptured. I guess that was one of the things. I don't know if you
sounds good.
I don't know if you've noticed these. A lot of people, those who believe in either a mid or a post or a split. They tend to think that they're maybe a little better than other people or something because they're gonna, especially the split rapture. Some believe that that they will, which I can understand because there will be the apostate church that goes through the tribulation period. That's why I'm in now with Revelation, but is that they will there'll be a rapture. A pre-tribulation rapture, and then those who aren't as good, they'll come out in the mid. And so those who believe in a split rapture usually think that they're a little bit better than everybody else. But anyway, there's things like that so you probably, especially with Mormonism, I don't know if there was dogma in it that can help you now not to be so dogmatic about things.
I do believe in a pre-trib rapture.
Right.
I do believe that, for example, when the angels came to Lot and in Sodom and Gomorrah, right, they said, "You have to leave. Get out because we can't continue."
It almost talks like that they carried him. He's like whenever that the bombs are coming and they take the president to the you heard whenever that the planes were coming in on 9/11, all the cabinet members described it as that they picked them up and they weren't walking; they were just their feet were dangling.
I think that's it. They made it very clear we can't pour out the wrath until you're out and you're well away.
Right.
And so I think that's
and Noah.
And Noah was sealed into the ark. God sealed Noah into the ark because, in my opinion, that he probably heard people out there banging on the side of the ark trying to get in, and he would have opened the door to save them, and God made sure that that was not possible.
Right, right.
The ark was his rapture. It was a typology of rapture, that he was taken from the wrath of God, and there was, and so the Bible's pretty clear. There's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, and so man can pour out his wrath on Christians, and does, but God can't love us and hate us at the same time. It just doesn't work. Oh, I've done it again here. Gosh. Oh, well. So I feel very strongly that, especially when I read in the book of Revelation, before the four riders of the apocalypse are released on the earth,
Okay.
John is called up to heaven with a trumpet
Right.
sound,
Yes.
and so on.
They're the first four trumpets.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel that is a typology of the rapture to come.
Right. Right. Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? We
He's
see
taken
the
to heaven.
yeah, we see the
The
pattern.
stage is moved from earth to heaven.
Yes.
Okay. Well, one of the things that J. Vernon McGee mentions is that, the church is not mentioned after chapter 3. He talks about the 7 churches of Asia Minor there. Of
Yes.
course, the church at Philadelphia, I don't know exactly I'd have to look it up, the wording, but he talks to them, like they're going to be the church of the rapture.
Oh.
And then it's obvious that the Laodicean church is the church of that's the reason I can see the confusion there, because there will be a church that goes through the tribulation, but it's a lost church. They don't know Jesus. He's the Laodicean church, and he's outside knocking, and there's not a doorknob.
Yeah.
He's outside the church.
Yes.
And so, I'm like, oh, you're one of those. You don't believe in a pre-rim, but no, I don't fall. We got a friend that believes in mid-trib, but that doesn't mean we consider him a heretic or he's not going to heaven. We don't look at him, that way. We may disagree with him, and we can have a civil discussion with him rather than getting all dogmatic and upset about it.
Correct.
But I ran into you've heard me talk about anyway, I probably don't want to mention their names. God rest the dead. but in my early coming back to the Lord, I ran into some people who were Calvinists. I don't know if you're familiar with Calvin.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Apparently there's Calvin and Armenian.
Yes.
I think you're Armenian. Calvin believes that you're you have it's almost like you don't have a choice. There's no free will. Armenians, you have a free will.
Yeah.
And so, and I believe you believe that we have a free will.
We do.
And so, they believe that the bowls of wrath would be the judgment of God, and that the tribulation would just be a time of pressure. It'd be just like peer pressure. But I noticed that in translating it, Dr. McGee, he was a Greek professor. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I didn't.
That's why he uses the Greek a lot in his teaching.
Oh.
And so he points out that it's the tribulation. It's not just the great tribulation. It's the tribulation. But it's the greater emphasis on it. But I like drawing these strings together. So I'm wondering, they were obviously post-tribulation. So I'm wondering if if the Calvinist viewpoint, lends toward that sort of thing. If people believing in more of a post-traumatic rapture.
Probably will be too.
It would be a traumatic. But then that was the other thing you said was, that would be a great way to start your honeymoon. Because we're supposed to be in heaven when we're raptured. We're going to be in heaven, or as the church, we're going to be. There's going to be a feast and a wedding ceremony. The feast is going to be later, but there's going to be a great wedding ceremony. You have to understand Bible manners and customs too. They had a wedding, then the bridegroom would bring the bride to his home, which that's the reason he's having to wait for the father to tell him to come, because the father would be building the home for him and his bride, and then would tell the son, it's done. You can go get your bride. And then
there's a lot of wedding typology or wedding language in describing the rapture.
Right. Oh yeah. And McGee says that you really, and I kind of cheated. I did Matthew through Revelations. I like doing the New Testament, reading the New Testament, and then read the Old Testament. The last few times I've read through the Bible, but he says, which I listened to him all the way through at least, you need all 60, all 65 books, I guess, to know the 66 book, or however that is. If there's 66 or 67.
66, I think.
I think there's 66 books. But anyway, you need to know all 65 before you can look at the 66 book
of Revelation,
because it's that's why it's last. And so but and so we talked about a couple of things, the dogma. I have some friends that if there's even a hint of Calvinism, they won't have anything to do with you anymore, and and there's this I guess. Let's see, what's it called in psychology? Where that you decompartmentalize everybody into groups, and they tend to do that in religion, and I think that's hard. Is bad for religion to do that. It looks bad to those who aren't in the Lord to have that, and I got upset on a couple of podcasts. I don't know if you've noticed all this clickbait on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Can you believe what so and so said?
Right.
There some of it's true. Can't believe what some people believe, but whatever that you research it. But
I think some of the confusion comes in that God is in a timeless realm. And we don't know what a timeless realm would be like. We have to only imagine what a timeless realm would be like. And so He understands the beginning from the end. He understands how things are going to happen perfectly, because I assume He's present in all of time.
Yes.
And so...
and 1,000 years is as a day to Him. Time is irrelevant to Him.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I always point out is the Olivet Discourse, Matthew chapter 23 and 24. One of His disciples, after he leaves the temple, after He's told him it's going to be destroyed in 3 days, of course He's metaphorically talking about Himself, and He's talking physically about the temple. So there you've got a little bit of problems. This disciple asked Him 3 questions. Rather than asking Him one, he asked Him 3 questions.
Right.
When are these things going to be? When is your kingdom going to come on earth?
Yes.
And when is this temple going to be destroyed? I think it's the 3. I don't remember top of my head. But anyway, I know He asked Him 3 questions.
Right.
And Jesus is, of course, me. I will actually. I'm kind of bad about that. I'll answer your last question and not answer your first one.
In reverse order.
Well, no, I won't answer your first one. I'll just ignore it. But He doesn't seem to answer them in order. But to me, that's what 70 A.D.
Mm-hmm.
is when the temple was destroyed.
Yes.
His what I would call His second coming, where He comes and He's not going to touch the earth, and then His third coming, where He comes and He actually touches the Mount of Olives and it splits. Right.
Yes.
To Him, that as God, He's God man. As God, that's like a few seconds apart. It's all it can be like it to him. It's all the same event, but and a lot of scripture talks about it as if it's the same event. But there's you know, but it's not.
We're going from a time where we have time, and then into a period of no time, and
that's where all millennialists get confused. They claim we're in the millennial. We've been in the millennial since 70 A.D. They say, well, that's whenever all those things happened that he was talking about. So,
and I think that's where the confusion comes in.
Right.
Yeah, I think that we have to look at God's nature, and God's nature is not that He would pour His wrath out on His bride or His church. It's not His nature, and so I kind of reject the idea that we're going to have to endure the wrath of God and then become the bride of Christ. I mean, that it would put a bride on edge a little bit to go through the wrath.
Right.
So it just doesn't line up with what I know about God.
And that's one of the things that gets me too. Is a lot of people, I've been commenting on these things on threads. That a lot of people pose questions, and I'll answer them. Of course, I've realized most of them are Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses trying to set you up. But one of the things is that in this day and time, people have this teddy bear holding Jesus lovey-dovey picture that they've created, which is really kind of, to me, like a false image of who Jesus really is.
Right.
Because he is going to minister this judgment, and he's going to pour out his wrath eventually, total wrath upon humankind.
Yes.
And Satan and all his cohorts. They're all going to be released from the pit, and they're all going to get the judgment together.
Yes. And they're going to wish to die. They're going to wish that the rocks fall on them. It's going to be so bad.
Right.
And it's not. It isn't this. God is love, but God is also judgment, and He's equally judgment and love at the same time. And we shouldn't think that He's going to be one without the other.
Right. Well, and because the pictures I'm having is him with a bullwhip clearing out the temple.
Yeah.
And then a rod of iron in Revelations.
Yes.
And so he can't. He can be both at the same time. It's not an oxymoron. He can be a lion and a lamb at the same time.
I think he is a loving God, but He is not going to compromise His principles.
Right.
And I think people sometimes think, well, He'll let me do what I want, or I'll get away with whatever I want because He loves me, and that's not so.
I remember I used to have Chick Publications did a video.
Chick Tracks, yeah.
The True Test, where they went in and they interviewed I forget what his name did it in L.A. on the gangsters, but they went to a college campus and interviewed students and gave them the true test, and and one of the guys says that, well, God, and I've heard a lot of people, he has to take into consideration, the good I've done and all of this, and so the guy said, well, would a judge here on earth let you get by with that? And he said, well, it depends on how much money you had. You think God would do that? No, a just judge, he makes him see that a just judge has to judge in righteousness.
That's right.
God has no choice. Because He's righteous, because He's a just judge, He has no choice but to hold you accountable for the evil you've done. The good that you've done. Actually, I've often wondered if I went before a judge and I tell him, I volunteered in the jail for 10 years. I used to think that because at one time I was spending, I forget how many hours a week in a jail, and keep track of all that time. Say, Judge, I've spent this much time in jail already. Can you let me go? And I think he would actually sock it to me worse because
you should know.
I should know better, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same way with our good works, like the culture in Mormons, is really that in doing this good, you should know better.
Yes.
Than to do this evil that you really are. That's what most people don't realize is, the Bible says our righteousness is as filthy rags, which, I have to go to his bathroom talk. We have to go to the women's bathroom to find in the garbage can the rags that we're talking about,
right.
Bloody rags. That's to God, that's our righteousness. And so, that's the best we can do on our best day. But and so he doesn't. So it doesn't offset,
right?
Even if we try. That's the whole purpose of the law, was to demonstrate that man cannot save himself.
That's right. It's not like a balance scale where you did one thing better than the bad things you did. And so, therefore, it doesn't work like that.
But you can't, even if you try.
Right. Exactly. But in our human way of thinking is, we think if we can get to that 51%, that somehow that will be okay or will be good enough.
And that's what most of these cults and isms is about, is telling yourself that you're a better person. And that's why it feeds on the natural human instinct. We want to think that we're better than people than we are. In our minds, we go, I'm not as bad as the guy next to me, so therefore, but that's why I sat on the second pew. I don't want anybody in front of me, but I want at least a pew between me and the preacher so he can't grab me. With Cecil, that might happen.
It's important we understand that God did it all. He's done all of it for us. Nobody's going to be able to stand. I used to say this to, when I taught Sunday school. Nobody's going to stand before God and go, let me have it, Lord. Give me what I deserve.
Right.
Because if that doesn't give you a chill, it should. You know what I mean? That should scare you to hear those words.
Well, and that was my thing that I was doing for a while. Is I'm somebody asked me how I'm doing, I'd say better than I deserve.
Yeah.
And people who don't know the Lord, they're kind of like, well, you deserve.
No. No. I want what I don't deserve.
Right, exactly. I want what I don't deserve.
Yeah.
That's grace and mercy.
And God, I think a lot of times we think, well, God's sort of like a human. No, he's not. He's not like a human, And God is 100% on every topic. He's all 100%, not some of this and some of that, or better than this and better than that. He's 100% on all topics. And so, really, when it comes to us, we're sinners, and we can't work our way to heaven. We can't earn our way to heaven. We can't impress God with our works. It doesn't work like that, because from the first time that we did a selfish deed as a baby, we blew it, and because God's 100%, and so it required Jesus Christ, his sinless life, to buy our redemption, because we can't buy it for ourselves, and we can't impress God with anything that we do.
Well, it also showed those who are in the cults and isms, that I was able to do it, and there's no excuse for you for not being your sin deserves judgment. But like you were saying, by the time we were old enough to know that we were breaking the law, we had already broke the law.
Many times.
I mean, one of the 10 Commandments is thou shalt not lie. Well, we probably lied when we were 2 years old.
Yeah.
And they didn't memorize the law until they were 12. Under the old Mosaic law. So 10 years before that they even knew, what they had, the consequences, what they'd done, had already done it.
Yes.
And so, that's the insanity of trying to do it by works.
Right. Right. It's 100% Jesus and what he did at the cross. And it is absolute. And when we try to add to it, if we say, you need Jesus plus circumcision, you're diminishing what Christ did at the cross.
Paul says that would be trampling on the blood of Jesus. It's making it a curse. It's almost like blasphemy.
Yes.
To go back and practice the law. So that would be that brings you to those who are in cults and isms, who they are, like you said, Jesus was their projectile.
Yes.
I mean, so you could they could say, well, I do believe in Jesus. I do have a relationship with him. I am trusting in his death, burial, and resurrection. But then this has to be added to it, and so. The problem with that, I'm thinking more like Catholicism. So the point we used to make was that they're really trusting in their works. But actually, after looking at it, where we had that thing come up in Sunday school about the cardinal virtues. I don't know if you remember that or not, but anyway, we won't go too deep on that. But in doing a deep dive, I had never heard of the cardinal virtues before. But apparently, the cardinal virtues, as I look into Catholicism, you have to believe that you have to obtain these 7 virtues before you can even start looking at grace. And McGee talks about this, how that there was this street urchin in London, and she's on her deathbed, and she sends her son to get somebody to get her in.
Oh yeah.
and so he goes and he's not gonna. Finally, he has to go a long ways to get to where there's a church because they're in the slums. And he goes around to the rectory, knocks on the door, and he says, "My mom needs you to get her in." He says, "Well, that's what a police officer's for. He thinks she's drunk and he needs to get her home." And so he goes and he talks to the woman, and he doesn't know. She's a street urchin. She's not dressed right. She's she hasn't done all of these things.
To qualify her.
To qualify her.
Yes.
That we saw through the Victorian period. Was its heyday. Women. They didn't talk. They didn't. They didn't even have relations with their husbands. It was so bad.
I've heard of that.
But he thinks, well, my mom used to read this verse to me. It was John 3:16. For God so loved the world that whosoever believeth in me shall not perish but everlasting life. Right. And she said, that's talking about me, isn't it? Whosoever will. And he said, well, I guess it is.
Surprise,
and so he said, 2 of us got in that day. The priest realized 2 of us got in that day.
I do believe, and I think this is important, that like when Nicodemus went to Jesus and said, Jesus said, you have to be born again. You have to be born from above. And he said, what are you talking about? You want me to climb back into my mother's womb or something? And he goes, how am I going to be born again? And I do believe that there is, I almost want to call it like a spiritual handshake where we choose Jesus, but then Jesus chooses us.
Right.
And that you do have to be born again. You have to be born from above. It's not just enough to say that you believe. It's not just enough to show up at church and keep a pew warm, through a church service. That's not enough.
Or the revolving door. You come, get baptized, go out the back door and we don't see you again.
Right. Yeah. Right. I said the words and now I'm good to go. And it doesn't work like that at all. I think my experience, my personal experience was, it's kind of funny, really. I actually, because of Mormonism, I thought that I needed to stop sinning. And that was one of the things that I needed to do. And so I told God, I prayed to God, and I said, I'm going to do it now, Lord. I'm going to stop sinning. And of course, you know how this is going to turn out. But the more I focused on sinning, not sinning, the more I thought about sinning, and the more it pulled me towards sinning.
Right. That's what Rick Warren says happens.
Yeah. If you're saying I will not sin, I will not sin, I will not sin, you're actually thinking about sinning the whole time.
Right.
And so
it's a setup for failure.
It is a setup,
and that's why, with Celebrate Recovery, we've learned that it's unconditional love that takes it. If you have, a wife or somebody, the codependent in the relationship, and all they're like, you need to stop drinking, or you need to stop doing drugs or whatever you're doing.
Yeah,
that just makes them want to. Every time you say the word drinking,
put it in their mind again.
I gotta go get a drink. I gotta go take a drug. Or I gotta go do whatever my thing is.
I used to,
and I told somebody one time. I said, he will be the person you make him. If you want him to be a good person, take him to church, take him to the meetings, take him, tell him what he good, point out the good that he does, encourage the good. But anyway,
and I think so. Anyway, I after a couple of weeks of not being able to stop sinning,
figure that one out.
And I was pretty good and frustrated, and I was ready to tell God off. And so I was laying in bed, wife at my side, she was sleeping, and I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't stop sinning. I go, and I just can't do it. And I said, Lord, I go, if you want me to stop sinning, I guess you're going to have to do it because I can't do it. And all of a sudden, I felt enveloped in like liquid love.
Right.
I mean, I just had this intense feeling of love, and I'm like, I just told God off. I just told him I can't do it. What is happening? And I had that was my born again experience. And in the following weeks, I didn't sin. I didn't cuss quite as much, and I treated my wife a little better, and something changed when I had that born again experience. And so that is kind of what I'm talking about.
It was a total surrender.
That was my surrender. I didn't even know what I was doing, and actually I was reading through the Bible, and I hadn't even got to where Jesus talked to Nicodemus till about a couple of weeks after that experience, and then I went, oh, I think that thing that happened to me, I think that's what Jesus is talking about, being born again, and it changed me. So right. It's great to try to resist sin, and we should, and I don't, but
and we can obtain holiness, but like you said, Jesus has to do it through us.
He has to do it through us,
right.
And we really have to do it not out of willpower. We have to do it out of gratitude,
right?
And I think that's really an important component. Is you don't want to sin anymore because you don't want to disappoint Jesus, right. And that's a integral into success.
And it's a moment by moment thing. You have to die. You have to mortify. You have to. I see it like this: that when you get saved, then you have a choice. Then you can choose between your sin and Jesus.
Yes.
And it's a matter of choosing Jesus over and over again.
Yes.
But we're getting on about 40 some minutes. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is we're both really into science and math and politics.
Yes.
So how do these things relate to Jesus?
Well, when you live for Jesus, then you make decisions about everything, as to whether Jesus would be pleased or not with your decision.
Right.
And being kind of sold out for Jesus and reading the Bible and trying to understand what God wants me to do with my life, I make political decisions and pretty much every decision on would Jesus approve of it. So I believe in justice. Jesus is a God of justice. I believe in justice, and God is a loving God. I want to be a loving person. I try to be, and so on. And so I really base my politics on the Bible and on Christ and who He is and what He would do.
Well, I keep hearing a lot of people say, I'm a truth teller. That Jesus was the way, the truth, and the life. He is the truth, and I'm a truth teller, and I study the truth, and I want to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how that you're seeing? How do you see?
Absolutely.
Why that we need to be informed? I see it as I need to be informed. I need to study the news enough to be informed. I don't want to make it my preoccupation, but
you can overdo it. Yeah.
You can overdo it, but I need to be informed, and then I need to tell other people the truth.
That's right.
Because that's what we are. We're truth tellers.
That's right.
Is that how you see it?
I see it that way too.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of error in politics and on both sides. And
Right.
we need to stick to the truth, and the truth is the gospel, and the truth is Jesus. And so as far as that lines up with the politics that's on the table at the moment, then I agree or disagree with it.
Right. Well, one of the things that was hitting me the last couple of days was the empire. The Roman Empire. Daniel. That was the amazing thing is the image that he saw of the man is not broken up. And we would, we think that the Roman Empire ended in like 614, something like that. I don't know when it was. We think it ended then, but we know that we say it's going to be revamped into the. Revived, and that's going to be the 10 nations of the beast.
Yeah,
and it's going to have a little horn. I'm wondering if it's been there all along, because as I listen to these people and study these people, because that's one of the reasons we're seeing maybe now Trump is having trouble with getting rid of the deep state, because really it's the empire. It's and it's connected to the empires of the world. That's we're talking about all the alphabet soups of all the countries.
I think the feat of iron and clay. There's the same with the mixing of politics. Iron doesn't mix with clay, and And I think that truth through the gospel is the iron,
okay,
and then the clay is the all the other stuff,
But that's what came to me, because they were talking about how that they've basically kind of moved our empire over to Europe, and they're trying to control us and all this. But the other thing is science. We were talking upstairs, about the moon. They're wanting to start up using it as a jump point to get to Mars and all this. And we were, I said I can't believe God let them go to the moon because of the Tower of Babel. And then Loranda said, well, Chad doesn't believe they even went to the moon. but anyway, we were talking about how things were set in meticulously in how they are. That shows a divine creation,
a creator,
creator. That it would drive the atheists nuts, worrying that the moon's going to crash into the earth at any moment. or fly off in space because it's going to, and they make movies about that all the time. Like I told you, there was a movie I watched the other day that the moon crashes into the earth. I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but anyway, you probably don't want to propagate that anyway. But but you know, they have those nightmares. You know, the earth is going to burst into flames. It's going into the sun. And you know, they have those nightmares, and we don't, because we know that God's holding everything
in place.
In place.
Yeah.
And so I think that helps. You know, Luke was a doctor, and it really helped reading from that perspective, the medical background. You know, the crucifixion and the birth, and you know, that way we know it was virgin birth. You know, because of the description that Dr. Luke gives it, rather than it just being a layperson. You know, you know, it really helps us to understand. I think having the analytical side, you know, I think maybe it takes. That's why iron sharpeneth iron. Maybe we don't help each other as much as like me and Cecil. You know, he
said some interesting things.
The cowboy viewpoint.
Yes.
From the cowboy viewpoint, you know, we can give another viewpoint, but I think that our critical, analytical side can help people maybe understand it from a different viewpoint, and that way.
Everything is balanced on a razor's edge, and so that absolutely did not happen randomly. You know, a random thing would be like a house exploding because of a gas leak. That would be a random thing, you know.
And then it creates even a nicer house.
Yeah.
It creates a mansion made out of, instead of wood and hay stubble, it's made out of brick and mortar.
Yeah, all of it goes up in the air, and then it comes down this beautiful building.
Or granite.
Yeah.
And that's how, you know, they say the eyeball is so intricate, and I'm not medical, but it was so intricate that there's no way that it could have evolved into its state. And then me and you were talking about, you know, that Peter, you know, I think it was, you thought it was Paul, but I know that he holds, Jesus that's one of the things he's doing. He's the creative agent in the Godhead.
Yes.
You know, the physical agent in the Godhead. We were talking about that earlier. You know, I think he had to come in a physical being, you know, to suffer as a human, to say, I've been through all that. Yep. I've done everything. I suffered everything you could possibly suffered, and and I didn't sin, and you don't have an excuse. but then he's the creative agent, and in the creative agent, he's holding everything together. And that was one of the things that Jay Vernon brought out that I had never thought about. You know, the Earth's going to end in a ball of fire, and it's kind of, and that doesn't make sense with water. It's 2/3 water, but in unraveling the DNA of life, the strands of matter, it like we did with the atomic bomb. And people thought they were God because they were able to do that with the God code, and they called it, and it sort of is, because that's what Jesus will just stop holding things together and it will burst into flames. And they say that the people who worked on that, it scares them to death, because, like, you know, this ink pen has the capability of blowing everything up.
I think,
and why doesn't it?
I think when they look at atoms, and you know, you have the nucleus, and then you have the electrons spinning around it,
right?
And where is that energy coming from?
Right.
That takes all these atoms and puts them together into a ballpoint pen or a desk or.
Well, and it's moving.
Yeah.
It's constantly in movement, and how does it stay solid?
Yeah.
At the same time, you know. Without, but I think that's the point, is that it could. How does it not unravel and create a, not only because they don't understand how that they're able to even minimize the explosion. They know if they make it a certain weight, it'll be a certain amount of tons. But they don't know how that it didn't unravel the earth and create just a massive fireball.
Yeah, that was the big gamble, wasn't it? The big gamble is that it would stop eventually.
Right.
Yeah, and not go around the world and just destroy the whole world.
Right. Right.
And they go, we think our science is pretty solid, but they didn't know.
Right.
You know, it was a gamble. Really. I mean,
right. And that's why it probably, I think most people think that maybe the dark side gave them the information or something like that. But it didn't come from human beings, maybe. It was evilly inspired. Like you were talking about Sunday morning, there's spiritually Holy Spirit inspired, like we're Holy Spirit inspired. We've been going on now for an hour and Holy Spirit inspired. But there are people who are demonly inspired, and Jay Vernon, or was it Jay Vernon? No, I think that was a podcaster I heard talk about how that somebody wrote a book, and they talk about how they wrote the book. There was this voice that was telling him what to write.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Voices in their heads, huh?
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you have anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I think we covered quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. So I think we've covered about everything. So with that, we like to close each one of these with our usual. I do want to encourage you to make comments and ask questions. I will take those up on the next podcast. I don't want to do that with Rob with us, but I will on the next one. But ask questions, make comments. I'll take them up where you put them, and then later on in the next podcast, I'll address the questions too. You wouldn't believe the questions I get. Of course, a lot of them can be. I've seen the mean side of people, at least. Especially when I got in Thessalonians, the guy was like, "Do you keep the Sabbath?"
Oh.
I hadn't got to chapter 5 yet. I think he wanted me to stop, but I didn't. The 22 commandments for a Christian are there, and so. But I knew enough to ask him. I was like, how's that going for you?
Yeah.
Are you keeping the Sabbath? Turn it around because it's impossible to keep the Sabbath.
That's right.
You're going to mess up. You're going to miss one Sabbath for some reason or another. It's hard enough to go to church every time. You wouldn't believe, last night or Wednesday night how hard it was to get there. I'm starting. I don't know if you've noticed that praying. Thank you, God, for making it so hard for me to be here. That you're showing me how faithful I
am. I like to think of the 2 commandments. There's love the Lord your God and love people. Mm-hmm. And I think that that supersedes the others.
Right. Well, these are easier to keep. They are pray without ceasing.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
And love the brethren. Some things like that. They're hinder not the spirit. And so they're keep those who are mischievous in line, that sort of thing, Yeah. But so they're kind of easy to keep. What they're not, keep the Sabbath. That's not one of the commandments that what they're using is John 15. Is it 15:14, something like that? If you love me, keep my commandments. And so, but yeah, you're right. The only commandments he gave us was with the 2, but I don't think they're really as applying as the other things that he instructed in a long way. I always thought it was the Great Commission was what he was talking about.
In Matthew 28.
Just get out the word.
Well, I think if you're doing it in love, then really all things in love, that's covered under all things in love. So that, but yeah, we need to have a loving heart towards God and towards people.
Right. Yeah, and so I do want to tell you also, if you want to be anonymous with your comments and questions, you can. We are a 501c3 company, Christ Recovery Ministry. You can reach us at P.O. Box 336, Berea, Kentucky, 40403. The phone number is 859-339-7633. If you wish to opine, name and town if you wish to opine. I tell them if they're a Bill O'Reilly fan, but I'm no longer a Bill O'Reilly fan. But but if you are, if you're not, just opine. And but don't call me. Text me. Rob likes calls. I like texts. That's why I have to answer when he calls me. But there's only a few people, a handful of people I'll answer when they call me, or call back. And so text me, and I'll be glad to take up your comment and leave you. Just let me know you want to be anonymous, and we'll keep you anonymous in that. So with that, we'll close with our usual. Good night, until we meet again. Adios, au revoir, I'll leave you say goodnight. And though it's always sweet sorrow to part, you'll know you'll always remain in my heart. Good night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bug bite. Is a wish and the truth that everything comes true. And now till we meet again. Adios, au revoir, I'll leave us say. Good night. And don't ever forget, you are truly loved. And with that, we say good night.